Well, good morning, everyone. Today is March 23rd. It is a Wednesday. We have just a few more days to get through, and we will be on our weekends and doing the things that we love the most. And maybe that's not true. Hopefully, what you're doing for a living is something that you love to do. And if it's not, I'm not sure if you're in a position to change it or not, but what you can change it. As a matter of fact, on that note, let's do the just for today. No, the serenity prayer. Let's do the serenity prayer together, okay? Let's take a moment of silence now, followed by the we version of the serenity prayer. Who we are not. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Isn't that awesome? It seems like to me the serenity prayer just centers me. I always am paying attention to my physical body as to how I'm responding to the words that I'm uttering. And I focused, it seemed like it just sat down, my spirit just sat down on the wisdom to know the difference because I had just made a comment that if you can change it, right? If it's something that you can change, the fact that you're not content with your um, what you do for a living, that you would be able to change it if you could. And it takes wisdom to know and understand whether or not you can make the change in a way that is spiritually, financially, uh, not so much financially, but definitely profitable, right? We can change our employment, our careers, not all of us at a drop of a hat because we've encountered so much weight as far as financially. We're not debt free. And so, if that's the case, you need to consider whether or not your change is going to be able to continue to sustain you, right? You want something that is sustainable. And so, you need wisdom to know that, right? You don't go out and change things haphazardly, but in regards to that prayer, you would want wisdom to know the difference, what you can change and what you cannot, right? So I hope that helps you today. Many of my friends are making changes. They are making changes and they are showing that the changes were decisions that they made in the power of wisdom because you can just see their energy is different. The way they walk into a room, the way they interact on the phone, everything is different. Um, when you actually advocate a change that is positive and healthy and beneficial, right, for you, then there's something that changes. It's like a shift, a paradigm shift that says now you're free. Now you're free. Go for it, right? Now you're free. Lift up your head now because you are actually doing what you feel you should be doing. You have that esteem and you're able to bring the positivity and the energy, right? So every change is not going to be um problem free. Problem free. Every change is not going to be problem free, right? But when you're making a decision to make a change, you definitely need wisdom. I didn't expect to do a discourse on the serenity prayer, but I have no problem with it. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for what this day holds for you. Let's go ahead and look at this just for today, March 23rd. We do the footwork and accept what's being given us to us rather freely on a daily basis. Let me read that. We do the footwork and accept what's being given to us freely on a daily basis. And it's entitled God's Gifts. And that quote comes from the basic text, page 47. Our relationship with our higher power is a two-way street. In prayer, we speak and God listens. When we meditate, we do our best to listen for the will of our higher power, we know that we are responsible for our part of the relationship. If we do not pray and listen, we shut our higher power out of our lives. When we think about our relationship with our higher power, it's important to remember which one we are, the powerless one. We can ask for guidance, we can ask for willingness or strength, we can ask for knowledge of our higher power's will, but we cannot make demands. The God of our understanding, the one with the power, will fulfill that half of the relationship by giving us exactly what we need when we need it. We need to take action every day to keep our relationship with the higher power alive. One way we do this is by applying the 11th step. Then we remember our own powerlessness and accept the will of a power greater than ourselves. Just for today, in my relationship with my higher power, I am the powerless one. Remembering who I am, today I will humbly accept the gifts of the God I understand. That reading is empowering. That reading is very specific. It didn't leave a lot of room for guesswork in there. It's talking about the application of the 11th step, right? Through prayer and meditation. Through prayer and meditation. Matter of fact, let's look at it just real quick here. I got the basic text from the NA Fellowship, and I want to go to the 11th step because I think it's important that I establish the presence of what it's speaking about before I get too far into um, the discourse on it. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. If I had not ever heard the serenity prayer and I heard the 11th step, I would think that the serenity prayer was the 11th step. Because here again, it's talking about seeking out through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, right? Praying only for a knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And that knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out is so connected to the serenity prayer, because we need to have the courage to change the things that we can and the wisdom to know the difference. But as I was saying, that comes through a relationship with God. That comes through a relationship with your higher power. And in this particular reading, as you see, it's very specific when it talks about a God of your own understanding, the God of our own understanding. Let me highlight that. The God of our understanding, the one with the power, will fulfill that half of the relationship by giving us exactly what we need when we need it. And I want to stop sharing there because I could just sit on all of those words all day because they're beautiful words, they're empowering words. And that is one of the things that I believe Hood Recovery Services is about. It's about bringing hope offered on demand. People in the world today in general, and especially us that are members, we are starting to feel the weight of discord. We're starting to feel the weight of family discord, family that is being relocated, displaced, or family that is choosing to make different decisions. And some of us, we don't understand that we don't have the power to control other people, but we do have the power to change how we respond to certain situations. And in the 11th step, if you are a person of prayer, you do realize that when you're praying, you're doing the talking and you're praying to your source, you're praying to your higher power, to your God, right? Of your own understanding and having that dialogue. This is where I'm at, and this is what I am feeling. And you have the faith, otherwise you wouldn't be praying. Now, there's some people that don't believe in God at all and they don't pray, but they meditate. And I have news for them. That is still a form of asking or sitting still in the moment and receiving positive energy, a refreshing. See, because I believe the God that I serve doesn't always have to um, speak to me in terms of what I understand as a human. I believe that I can sit and be very quiet and not say a word because my thoughts are heard by the one that I call my God, right? So I don't believe that I have to have this formality for prayer. So for some people that don't believe in God or they don't have a higher power that is common, put it like that, to other people, it's still your higher power. And that energy or that force that you turn to when you're with that energy or with that force or with God, you should be able to pray and make the desires of your heart or the complications you're facing known and believe and have faith that your higher power is attentive to that. In fact, your higher power, for me, my higher power is already aware before I even utter a word. And so that when you do pray, you believe that you're being heard. You're speaking, as the reading said, and God is doing the listening. Okay. And so once that happens, when does it turn to where God is speaking and now you're doing the listening? The problem with us sometimes is that we do a lot of talking and no listening. And we tend to think, oh, I prayed about it. And then we move forward. But actually, just saying I prayed about it is almost like like throwing people off from whether or not the way you're behaving or what you're doing is spiritual in and of itself. It's to push people away. Well, I prayed about it, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Okay, so you prayed about it, but what was the response? You did talking and God was listening, your higher power, your own understanding, right? Right. I feel like that's the big elephant in the room, making sure that I let people know that your higher power doesn't have to be mine, right? You don't even have to call your higher power God. And for me to use the term God is something that I learned through our program because it wasn't a term that I used, right? I believe that my higher power has a name and I use it. Only time you hear me, using a title or a term such as higher power of God is when I'm specifically in relationship to the fellowship and other members, because I have learned that I don't want to impose, right? So I'm always conscious that there's some people whose faith is not the same as mine. Their God is not the same as mine. And I want you to understand that in this program, we have clear direction that this is a higher power that should be based on your understanding. In relationship to the 11th step, hopefully this is a higher power you can turn to for direction. But the direction only comes when you move into meditation. I want to be clear about that. You move into meditation and now you're postured to be listening and God is postured to be speaking to you. And I had the beautiful opportunity of teaching classes on the ways that God can speak to a person, right? Because I believe it's very spiritual in nature. And we say in this program that this is a spiritual program, not a religious one. And that's what we need to keep in mind is that it's spiritual in nature. Our disease of addiction, right? the using of the drugs and the drinking, right? That was all a manifestation of the dis-ease within our spirit. And so if that's a spiritual dilemma, then the answer also has to be spiritual in nature, right? And that's why you see some people, they come into the program, they only go so far. They only go so far. They don't start to scale mountains because they're not willing to let some of the things that they know best to do, their survival skills, they're not willing to allow the God of their understanding adjust those. They're not even willing to pray about them, right? So that the God of their understanding can respond and say, let's let that go. Let's let that cussing and swearing go. Let's not do that anymore. Right? I want you to start settling down when you're interacting with people and listen to them when they're really talking to you. I want you to listen. And I don't want you formalizing a rebuttal in your head, waiting for them to take a break from speaking. I want you to be more patient and more genuine and authentic when you're listening to people. Right? And when you're angry and you want to use terminology that I don't consider positive, you want to cuss or swear, I want you to settle down and find another word. Find another word. Right? I'm just using these as examples of what could happen in a prayer if a person is willing actually to pray to the God of their understanding. How the listening, the meditative part, how that might come to you. Some people love to write. And so because they love to write, longhand, right? They love to write. They might type too, right? But some people, when they pray, they actually will write or journal afterwards. And their revelation, their meditation, right? The meditative part is in that journaling, and they're listening for revelation about what they should or should not do. I went through a phase where I was writing letters to God on a regular basis. It was my form of communication. So in the 11th step, that's what you're seeking, is knowledge of God's will for you and the power to carry it out. This particular Just for Today really sat down or focused upon where the power was coming from. The God of our understanding, the one with the power, right? And a couple other times it mentioned that we don't make demands, we ask, right? Because we're not the ones with the power. And to that, I want to speak to that because it's very specific. When someone has what you're seeking or that you need, the way that you petition for help, you can't demand anything of an individual that holds the gifts that you seek, right? Because if they're holding them, they have possession of them. They belong to them. Those gifts belong to God. And what we seek, we are petitioning to have those gifts released to us, which would be the knowledge of what his will is for us and the power to carry it out. And so it's not a demand, it's an asking. But it's asking with, for me, it's asking with faith, right? It's asking with already knowing and believing that even though I may not necessarily know exactly what the response will be or the answer or the gift will be, I do know that the answer and the gift will come. I do know and believe that there's nothing that I'm going to go through that my higher power will not give me understanding about what his will is for me and give me the power, endow me with power to be able to do what it is he wants me to do. My grandmother used to say this. She used to say, God is not going to take you anywhere, honey, that he cannot keep you. And so I want to leave you with that today in the power of the 11th step. Come on, someone. This is just beautiful. Recovery is beautiful to me. God is not going to take you any place he cannot keep you. But it is possible to get in a place that was not the will, right? Because we're talking about the 11th step. Knowledge of God's will for us was not the will of God. And you're struggling to stay in that place or to handle it, right? You're struggling. Not that life doesn't bring struggles, but it's eating and grating away at you. It's robbing you of your self-esteem. It's making you just not even want to wake up. It's causing you to have severe depression, or it's causing you to to isolate and to alienate. You are in a circumstance or a situation that was not created for you to be in, because you didn't do due diligence. You didn't do the work to be able to say, I have an understanding of what God's will is for me, and I have the power to carry it out. Right? Because if our higher power is loving and caring, um, there's no, I'm going to take you somewhere and just abandon you. That's not going to happen. Right? And so we find ourselves like struggling with situations that were not ever even created for us to be a part of. Half of the chaos that I have lived through, and I just thank God, right? Half of the chaos that I've lived through was a direct result of my own disobedience or disregard for the fact that I'm a human being with a spirit. I'm a spirit with a human body, right? And that this spirit, right, has a need to be in relationship to the God of my understanding so that I can be directed and guided. My grandma also used to say, Grandma Willie, she said, God is a gentleman. He doesn't force himself on you. But when you're ready, right? And we say it here too. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so when your spirit is ready and you've had enough of all of the weight or the burden of being in a spot where you were not created to be, you didn't even get the permission. You just went about it because it sounded good, or it had glitter on it and you went for, or it was beautiful, or whatever that thing is that you chase after. If we really, really think about it, it's almost like obsession and compulsion took over us again. Almost like the disease of addiction just transferred itself to something or someone else. And so now you're in this situation that feels similar to the disease, right? The obsession and compulsion that comes with the disease of addiction. And you're sensing that. And I just want to speak to that, right? You don't have to put up with that another day. Find time to work in 11th step. Find time to pray and meditate, right? So that God can respond to your prayer and give you direction about what his will is for you. And also with that gift of revelation, sit down the grace. Sit the grace down on top of it so that you can do it. You know, when you think about a graceful dancer, I'll say a ballet dancer that has the grace, she moves with grace or he moves with grace. Anytime you see someone doing or operating in something that they're passionate about, created to do, you see grace. They make it seem so easy. And it may have taken years and years of practice, right? Training, but they do it so easily. That is telling you in that moment, there's grace. They've been given the power to carry that out. And that's what we're seeking, right? That's what we're seeking in recovery. We want to shed off the weight, the dead emotions, or the non-productive emotions. We want to remain emotionally clean and allow God to, after we've prayed, go into meditation and allow the God of our understanding to reveal the will for us, His will for us, its will for us. Can I just put that out there for those that are still hesitant on the God thing? Its will for you and the power to be able to carry that out. It's very important. It's very important at this stage in your life that we not waste any more time in places and spaces or dealing with faces that were not created for us, because it's tragic. It's very tragic because now we're using our life force, the time that we have on this earth. We're using our energy, our being on things that have no real benefit to anyone and definitely not to ourselves. Now, how can I say that? If I am doing something that was not created for me to do, was not the will of God for my life, I don't have the power to carry it out. There's no grace on it. Let me drink a little coffee. Okay. My throat was getting dry there. So if I am moving in self-will, I haven't, all this time I've been talking, I haven't even used that term, but it's so simple, right? I am doing things according to self-will, and there is no grace, no power on top of that to carry it out. There's only self-will. I'm going to be burning out. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to be intolerant. I'm going to be judgmental, right? Because now I'm looking at others doing what they have been given the power to carry out, and I'm just struggling to get this done, right? And so even if I believe that other people are benefiting from it, you have to remember that what comes from the heart touches the heart. And if I'm bringing uh, a resentment in what I'm doing, do not think other people cannot pick that up. Other people are the same as you. They're spiritual beings with a physical body. They can pick that up, right? They weren't born yesterday. They know when you're doing something begrudgingly, when you don't feel that that is what you're supposed to be doing and you're doing it anyway because now you've been doing it so long that you just it'd be an embarrassment to stop doing it. And so you're just doing it because you have to. You got yourself into this mess and you have to get yourself out. And I just want to say, no, you don't. You do not. You do not have to continue in a vein that is not profitable for yourself and others. And so, more than any other time, I want to encourage you to pray and to meditate in the spirit of step 11, asking your higher power for knowledge of his or her will or its will for you and the power to carry that out. It will make your life so much better. It is really the serenity prayer expounded deeply upon. That's what the 11th step is. It is the serenity prayer on a deeper level. It is um, expounding on what those three stanzas actually mean. Okay? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. In order for you to even be able to do that, you have to be able to utter a prayer and petition or ask, not demand, the God of your understanding for the ability right? To have some acceptance that we don't have power. We're powerless over people, places, and things. But what we do have power over is how we react or what we do in any situation. The courage to change the things that I can. Now we're talking about God giving you the power to actually make a change on those things that you can't actually change, right? I call it the grace of God, right? Giving me the grace to be able to carry it out, to make the changes that I need to make, and the wisdom to know the difference. I was told that the definition of wisdom is appropriate application of knowledge. So now I know that there's a difference between what I can change and what I can't change. There's a difference. And usually the difference is that directed outward, I cannot change what you do or do not do. What I can change, inwardly directed, I can change what I can do. I can change my responses and my behaviors. This is a beautiful program. I am MightyStream with H.O.O.D Recovery Services. H.O.O.D stands for Hope Offered on Demand. You can reach me at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. This Saturday, I'm going to be on the touch at 1:35 p.m. Standard Eastern Time with radio personality Double A. And we're going to be talking about Just for Today and what that means and why this program is so desperately needed. So I want to thank you. Have a beautiful Wednesday. I'm going to make it great. You take care, guys. Bye now.